of an hour. Three-time major winner Padraig Harrington takes a call, came very close to winning the Czech Masters at the weekend, led for most of Sunday in fact, so we'll check in with Padraig on the season that was. Also Ryder Cup vice-captain Paris is coming into very sharp focus, and Jack O'Shea and Sean Walsh, Kerry's midfield partnership. The last time we had a 4-in-a-row team. We'll take a trip down memory lane as Dublin bid to make it 4 in a row this Sunday. 53106, the text number. We are on Twitter at Off The Ball. Richie McCormick here in studio. Hello, Richie.
How are you, Joseph?
And Kieran Cunningham. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Sports writer with the Irish Daily Star. Less exercised, I would say, than Chemical Ban was in your seat last night, which is no bad thing. So, hey, a few bits going on. I know you obviously work with James Horan at times on his column in the Star. He appears frequently. Has he been taking your call over the last few days? Mysteriously absent, mysteriously uncontactable.
Well, his call isn't. Next column isn't due till Friday. So I had a text exchange yesterday morning. All right, but
anything you want to bring us?
No, he's keeping a low enough profile at the moment.
Keeping the head down.
But I don't blame him because his name is out there. You know, does it really benefit if he is interested at this stage to say anything? I would say, to be honest, he's a lot to think over, because I know a lot of those players have huge time for him. I think quite a few of them would, if not the majority, if not all of them, would like to see James come back. And the thing with James is, he's a lot going on with a very busy job and a young family, but he's hugely interested in coaching, and he's obviously mad interested in Mayo football. Like, not many football managers challenge themselves by taking on the top hurling club in Galway like he did last year, and then he took on Westport this year. And I know, he organised one himself, a coaching conference in Galway with, in Mayo. Brafey, I was down at it with Brafey. Were you there? Yeah, did you?
I didn't make it down in the end. I was due to and had to pull out, but it sounded like a very good thing.
Yeah, but the likes of Kenneth Egan, and he had people from a host of different coaches, and then different sports. And I know he goes to the coaching conference in Abbotsford. So I think it is something he would like to go back to. Whether this is the time,
well, if he feels he has unfinished business with this group of players, then they are running out of time, some of them. You know, the core group, if they want to win in All-Ireland, he probably can't wait another 2 or 3 year cycle.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Well, if you think of last year, they got 6 All-Stars, but 5 of them were over 30. You know, so that was obviously those 6 are, that's 5-year best players who are on the downward slide or downward slope. I wouldn't say the slide as much, but in many ways it's very tempting, because if Dublin win, and you get the shot at stopping the 5 in a row, and tied in with Mayo's first All-Ireland since 1951, it's quite a prize. But there's no guarantees. But it's up there. Like the McGuinness thing has been around for a few weeks, and a lot of people have rubbished it completely. And initially, I was very sceptical, but from what I hear, there's something behind it. No, there are some people with influence on Mayo football who'd like McGuinness in there, and I think. I thought, because he's been so set on a career in soccer, he'll never do this. But I think that ship might have sailed for him, because he's 46 in November. By the time he has his pro licence, he'll be close to 48. And you can't even manage in a...
I don't know, look at Maurizio Sarri.
Yeah, but you can't even manage in the League of Ireland Premier Division without a pro licence. 48 is very old to be starting out of management. Generally, you're a decade younger. Sarri was a bank manager up to 40, but he'd been coaching teams from mid-30s. At 40, at Jim's age, he'd probably manage 5 or 6 clubs.
Off in China.
So, and also with such, 65% of first-time managers in England never get a second job. And Jim in soccer is the tiniest fish in the biggest pond. In Gaelic football, he's a massive fish in a small pond, which can be quite tempting, because he's an ego. Like a lot of managers and coaches, he's quite a big ego. And I think, the Mayo job, there's something about it. Now that I know people give out that people were always talking about Mayo and talk about the Dubs for 5 days. But
how can you talk about the Dubs for 5 days?
When Mayo make the headlines so often. But it's going to be interesting how it pans out.
I must say, the notion of Jim McGuinness or James Horan led Mayo trying to stop Dublin's 5 in a row march would be quite the story. That said, I presume this is All-Ireland football final week. I presume that it is going to be a 5 in a row march next year. You don't see Tyrone springing a shock on Sunday?
I don't, and that's being honest. No, I think they've come on a lot the last couple of years, but I haven't seen enough from them to suggest that they can beat Dublin. And for the main reason is, since 2008, since they won the All-Ireland, Tyrone have won a lot of championship games, but I can't remember them winning any when they've been massive underdogs. And a lot of people say, Mickey Hard is brilliant at coming up with a plan for the biggest days of all, and he showed that in the noughties against Kerry, etc. But Donegal beat them 4 times in 5 years, which were huge games for Tyrone, and he wasn't able to come up with a plan to win those games. And I thought at least 1 or 2 of those years he'll have figured them out. He'll have got something for this. But he only started to beat Donegal when a lot of the players either retired or went into decline. So I just don't see it.
Martin O'Neill told me, and we'll play that in the interview, good players help,
Yeah, and that's the thing as well, because like Tyrone in the noughties, I think it's 6 or 7 of the best players we've seen in the last 30 years.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Whereas now I think they've 2 or 3 outstanding players, and they've a lot of pretty good players, but they're not a level like Dublin. Like if you want to pick out, say, Dublin candidates for Football of the Year, you could rhyme off 9 or 10 because there's that evenness of standard, and it's a really high standard.
Yeah. No, they seem to be in a great place. It certainly feels that way. By the way, James Horan, Jim McGuinness and others will be discussing, I suppose, their own situation. If the Mayo County Board want to come down and host an EGM of some kind and interview them on stage, we will allow that. We'll facilitate that. But they'll be there. offtheball.com/events is where you can get your tickets. We're at Crow Park Thursday. Cora Staunton there as well. Aidan O'Shea, Keith Barr, Peter Canavan. Should be a really good night. But yeah, McGeeney's going to be there as well. How can Kieran McGeeney be last in the billion? What's gone wrong with the world?
But one thing I find interesting as well, or would be interesting, if he does go back to Gaelic football management, Jim McGuinness, after working in soccer for 5 years, I'd be interested to see what he'd bring. Yeah. Would he bring something new? Because like when he was out in Beijing, his job was looking after set plays. So it'd be interesting if he brought set play knowledge, set piece knowledge to Gaelic football.
A bit of cross-pollination would be more than good.
Someone because like he had one big idea that took him a long way with Donegal, but I think that idea has run its course. He would need something different. I don't think he could go with the Donegal template again.
OMG, says somebody, another team from McGuinness to turn into a negative team. Please God, no. Is that fair on what McGuinness did in full fruition with Donegal? Like the 2012 performance against Mayo, were they not a total football attacking in their droves kind of a team as well as being they were very good defensively. There's nothing wrong with very good defensively, but like they had runner after runner after runner going up the field as well. I mean, obviously in the Dublin, the famous 6-5, what was it in the end?
8-6. Yeah, that was 2011. Like in 2011, they were a defensive team. I think they were a counter-attacking team after that.
That's how they were a counter-attacking teem. I don't think you can say they were a defensive team. No, they're a defensive team if they don't put any men forward, but in 2012 they did.
They got men back, but so did Dublin, so did Kerry, so does everyone. Because players are so athletic, that's what they do.
Their performance in the 2012 final was excellent.
But
scored 2 goals.
Yeah, but there were they surpassed even that. Like against Cork in the semi-final, they were superb that year, and against Dublin after they got over that wobbly 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes in 2014, they were outstanding. Yeah, like they really ripped them apart. So.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say negative is totally fair on McGuinness. In the end, obviously, in 2011 it was, but you have to start somewhere. You have to make a team hard to beat. You can only start from your base.
It'd be interesting if you did something left field. Like you look at the influence Cian O'Sullivan has on Dublin or Con Kavanagh with Tyrone, and maybe would that be a role for Aidan O'Shea as he gets older, that as a deep line playmaker, which effectively Carl Lacey was with Donegal, that they'd playmaker at 6 rather than 11, and that might be so, because I think with the likes of Colin Boyle and Keith Higgins, the age they're at, that defence will need a bit more protection. Yeah. So,
well, interestingly, in the Irish Times, and we'll ask him about this on Thursday, he's pitching various rule changes he thinks need to come into GAA, so that's where he sees the game at the moment. Let's start our news round. It is brought to you this evening with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. And Richie, the fallout from last night at Old Trafford continues.
Yeah, but the board of Manchester United remains seemingly behind their manager José Mourinho following last night's 3-0 defeat at home to Tottenham. With 3 points from their first 3 games, it's the worst start to a Premier League season for United since 1992. That year, though, they went on to win the league. Mourinho called an early halt to his press conference post-match last night, demanding respect from journalists given his 3 Premier League titles. Before it all went south, this was a flavour of Mourinho's exchanges with the assembled media.
I'm sorry, you have to tell me what is the most important thing, because I don't know. Because when I win matches, I come here many times and you are not happy that I won matches, and you say that the most important thing is the way of playing.
I'm just asking about the defending.
No, you have to make a decision in relation to that, because I need to know from you what is the most important thing, if it is to play well or if it is to win matches. If it is to play offensively or is to play for a certain result. We lost last season here against Sevilla and we were booed because we deserve, because we were not good, because we were not dangerous enough, because Sevilla deserved to win the match. We were booed, and deservedly. And today the players, they left the pitch after losing at home and they were applauded because they deserve it. So you keep trying and trying and trying and keep trying and keep trying.
Is it not a bit of a distraction?
Okay. Now, just to finish, do you know that what was the result? 3-0.
You lost 3-0.
3-0. Do you know what this means? 3-0. But also mean 3 premierships, and I won more premierships alone than the other 19 managers together. 3 for me.
Quite the performance from Jose, and it certainly
I just
made sure
can't
there's
wait
more
for-
talk about that than the actual performance.
Absolutely, and I can't wait for Jim Gavin to do the same next next Sunday.
Respect.
That would be hilarious.
Respect.
Respect. 4 in a row. No,
Did you watch the game?
I did, and you know he has a point. Apart from not scoring and conceding 3 goals, United played well.
I agree.
But I think those 2 things are a bit of a problem.
They're problematic, but the Sevilla comparison is fair, where they were really abysmal and toothless. And last night, they were on the front foot and they played well for huge spells. And yes, look, 3-0, you can't defend it, it's horrific. And then you take a broader look. I think Gary Neville made this point as well. He was saying, he doesn't know his 11.
Yeah.
There's no set midfield, really. The architecture around Lukaku is not obvious either. Who does he actually want supporting them? And frankly, the defence is a mess.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's in a pretty bad place.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And also, I think he's become a reactive manager. That's not his. He doesn't really want to play attacking football.
No,
I don't
it's not
think
his
it's not his
instinct.
nature. And there was I think you talked about this the other day in the paper review. A piece by Jonathan Northcroft in the Sunday Times, but the importance of David De Gea in terms of stopping expected goals. I hate that.
What's his
that
XG
stat
rating,
is brought
Kieran?
up, but I can't remember the stat. But
Off the top of my head, it was that of 43 expected goal chances. So chances where you'd expect 43 goals to happen, only 27 had happened because of De Gea.
So if you factor into the points, it's probably they would be lucky to be a top 6 team if you take what De Gea has given them out of it. So I think he's coming close to the end game, and even the way he's thinking now, bringing up that I have more than the other 19 managers, is obviously something that he's worked this out since Wenger left.
Yes,
this is on his mind. I think Rory Smith tweeted this earlier, and I was thinking about it. He's right. This is. If that's on your mind, what he had, and he's not alone in that. Houllier used to talk about winning charity shields and Super Cups, and Benitez was similar.
Alan Ball dangled his World Cup winners medal in front of his Southampton players apparently once as well.
If patriotism is the last refuge of a scandal, then medals on the table is definitely the last dying shot of a manager who's almost. You don't want to say the game's passed by him, because that can't be true for someone who's done what Mourinho's done. But something ain't working.
I think there's another thing at play with him as well. I think he still has a chip on his shoulder that he's the interpreter. That he is he's not an ex-footballer. He didn't have a gilded career like Guardiola. Even Klopp, he wasn't a brilliant player, but he had a long career. Pochettino with 20 caps for Argentina, won a couple of Copa del Rey's with Espanyol. That the other guys around, most of them have careers. I know Sarri's different, but I think these kind of guys, I think he thinks they've never respected him. I think.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
But they weren't terrible last night, and yet they also were.
No, they weren't. Like if
Lukaku,
when he went around the keeper,
Yeah.
if he put that one in, you could have seen United winning that 2 or 3-0. I think
it was rare for them to play with that kind of pace and energy and intensity and to press another team. And Mourinho said that elsewhere in the press conference.
It's the way they capitulate though from 1-0 to 3-0.
Yeah,
jig time.
It's terrible. Although as he said to Jeff Shreves afterwards, he was like, "Jeff, I don't know if you've played the game. Maybe people in your studio have, but goals are like vitamins."
Did you see the clip of the guy saying to Ed Woodward? It looks like he said, "Sack him." I don't know who the guy is sitting beside Woodward, and Woodward doesn't seem to be disagreeing.
Okay, really?
But yeah, it's quite like we don't know, but it looks like
This is where they should have got the hands over the mouths.
Yeah, it's one situation they should have. Yeah,
look, it feels like it's starting to feel like Endgame. Owen Sheehan had a nice tweet of Woodward and his two lads sitting beside him stiffly, all kind of rigid, looking on. He said, three of them are like you are when you're watching TV with your parents and a sex scene comes on. It's that don't blink, don't move, don't say anything, don't acknowledge what's happening kind of a moment. It'll be over soon. So James Horan then is the favourite, Richie.
Yeah, with the bookies at least, to succeed Stephen Rochford. Donegal's 2012 All-Ireland winning manager Jim McGuinness also in the frame. A perceived lack of support from the county board led to Rochford's resignation after 3 years in charge last night. Westport boss Horan previously managed Mayo between 2010 and 2014. But speaking on this morning's OTBAM, Mike Finnerty of the Mayo News cast some doubt over whether Horan would fancy a return.
Whether or not he's actually interested in it at this stage, again, it's well known. He's got a lot of media commitments. He's got a young family. He's got a very busy job. And he's only just started this project in Westport as well, which I suppose anybody who's plugged into Mayo football will know they are the coming club now. They've swept the board at underage level. They're winning 8 championships hand over fist. And they really are building something. Whether James Horan throws his hat in the ring, it remains to be seen. But if he doesn't, that shortlist, I think, is pretty short. There's no obvious candidate, I think it's fair to say at this stage, jumping off the page.
Interesting. Makes it all the more interesting if Mike's saying there's no obvious candidate in the county, that the county board didn't persevere with Rochford. Think he deserved one more chance?
Yeah. Well, from what I've heard, there was a lot of talk of the shake-up in the backroom team and Tony Buckley and Tony McAtee, etc., leaving. That it's quite hard to get good people then for a backroom team. Like there's a severe shortage around. Like when you look at Tony Buckley, how far he'd go from Kerry to Mayo, and McAtee going from Armagh, that you have to trawl the country for them. And I think from what I gather, Stephen Rochford found it quite hard to get the people. Eventually he got Peter Ford and I think it was
Shane Conway.
Yeah, Conway, for both involved at Breffy at the moment. And I don't know,
They weren't impressed, the board? Or?
I don't know, because nobody's coming out and saying it, but they did, from his statement, they weren't very positive about what had happened,
Yeah, there's action tonight, Rich.
Yeah, Dundalk can go 6 points clear at the top of the SSE or Tristy Premier Division. They play host to Shamrock Rovers at Oriel Park, where kick-off is at 7:45. A full 21 ties down for decision in the second round of the Carabao Cup tonight. Declan Rice starts for West Ham and Josh Cullen is on the bench for them, who traverse London to face League One side AFC Wimbledon. Former Galway forward Aaron Connolly is on the Brighton bench for their meeting with Southampton. That's at the Amex. Greg Cunningham makes his Cardiff debut, playing left wing back with Norwich visiting the Cardiff City Stadium. Of the other Premier League sides in action, Leicester play host to Joey Barton's Fleetwood. Wolves, Matt Doherty and the side go to Sheffield Wednesday, and Huddersfield are at Stoke. Crystal Palace face a potential banana skin at Swansea. Bournemouth play MK Dons and Fulham take on Exeter. Meanwhile, Conor Hourihane starts for Aston Villa with Glenn Whelan and Jake Doyle-Hayes on their bench for their trip to Burton, and Conor Shaughnessy starts for a much changed Leeds side who play at home to Preston. Graham Burke and Alan Brown on the bench for them.
David Gold's helpfully pointing out that he thinks Rice could be England captain, born in London, made in West Ham, was the not provocative tweet he sent out. Look, we talked about this at length yesterday, and I think people have had their fill of it probably. I've just reached the conclusion it's not ideal when this happens, obviously, but sure, look, let him make up his mind. Whatever he does, wish him well, and we all move on. Nobody's life's ruined.
Yeah.
Are you feeling angry about the situation?
No, like to be honest, it doesn't surprise me at all. I was in here with you and Andy Lee doing the paper review a couple of days after he made his debut against Turkey, and they said that day that all the talk was completely committed to Ireland at the time, and I said no, I wouldn't think this is cut and dried, purely because I thought this fella has something. And if you go back over the last 20 years, the era just after, say, when Kevin Kilbane, Gary Breen, before them Andy Townsend, etc. had come through, I don't think England have let many quality players slip through the net, if any. Like the guys we've got in more recent years, the Kieran Clarks, Cyrus Christie's, Harry Arter, I don't think they would have been in the frame for England.
No,
but the guys that were eligible, like Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, possibly now Declan Rice, Michael Keane, we've lost out on. I think England don't. ultimately, I think it's about money. Like the five Irish players in history have gone for transfer fees over £10 million. The biggest Irish transfer fee is 19 million from Robbie Keane to Liverpool, and that was 10 years ago. And those are, that shows Irish players don't go for big money. Whereas England internationals, there's a premium for them. For some reason, they get wages more than they get paid more than they should, and the transfer
wants
fees
to have one on their books. I mean, it's a good thing to have. It's a connection with the fans, I suppose.
Yeah, and given his age, like I know he had a difficult outing against Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, but from what we've seen of him at his age,
there weren't too many 19-year-olds playing regular Premier League football.
No, there wasn't. And if you look at the World Cup, outside of their starting 11, their strongest 11, England were pretty weak. Like I think he could.
And Gary
comfortably break into that.
Gary Cahill's calling time in his international career essentially today as well, opening up a gap in defence. Gareth Southgate names the squad on Thursday. I mean, I think we know where this is heading.
Yeah.
Mourinho commanding respect for the 3 Premier League titles he's won, yet the same guy used to pillory Arsene Wenger, labelling him a serial loser.
Specialist in failure with a couple of Premier League titles of his own.
That's Wenger with 3 Premier League titles. Good man José. Cheers from Colin Kavanagh in Arklow, who has wasted 30 cents pointing out the fact that Mourinho's a hypocrite. Where do you start? Like, I hear Richie in the background wondering aloud, how could you talk at length about Dublin? Try it sometime and see. It's a week of an All-Ireland that Mayo are not in, and yet the majority of airtime this week is going to be devoted to them. Come on, lads, surely Dublin and Tyrone's is the story of the week, says Alan.
But both teams don't. I thought teams don't want any hype and the build up of fans. They don't want you to talk about them anymore. So
well, we'll be doing loads on them. I mean, obviously yesterday when the Mayo manager resigns, it's going to be the big story invariably. But
and an Irish international defecting to England.
Yeah. There's going to be plenty in Dublin, Tyrone. The lads played out a big Mickey Hart interview last week on OTBAM. There'll be lots of build up. Our show on Thursday will have lots of Dublin Tyrone, and then come Monday when we're reflecting on Dublin Tyrone, you'll be sick of Dublin Tyrone, and then frankly the shackles will be off and we'll get Dublin players into studio. The following weeks then they'll be doing their various advertisements and suddenly they'll be available to come in, and by about I'd say mid-September you'll have had your fill of Dublin. Don't worry, we will get to them. They're an amazing team. I mean they're just phenomenal. It's almost you run out of new things to say about them is almost the problem, but geez, I'd never miss watching them play.
No, I think like I can remember, I know you have Jack O'Shea and Sean Walsh on. I can remember that team. I'm old enough to remember them, and I would have the Dublin team ahead of them. I think they're like that Kerry team never did what they did in leagues. I know people might laugh at that, but like Dublin play at such a high performance in game after game, no matter what month of the year. There's never been a team like that. Jim
McGuinness made this point in the Irish Times piece, and Enda McGinley mentioned it about 2 weeks ago on the show as well about Dublin, and they both kind of noted that of late Dublin are moving to a new level, and it's not in terms of excitement necessarily, but actually sort of in a tiki-taka Spanish type of way. They just exert almost a stranglehold on the game through their possession. They just dictate the game. It's not a frantic, frenetic, alive game. It's all done on Dublin's terms. They've managed to take chance out of the equation.
They have, and if you look at where they're scoring from, like that, the game they did lose in the Championship under Jim Gavin, that Donegal game. Remember Paul Flynn and Diarmuid Connolly, they scored some amazing points from 45, 50 metres.
Yeah, Flynn in particular had a few early ones.
Yeah, and Connolly had a few as well. But they were... So that was a great strength line, but they never shoot from distance, or very, very rarely. Like it's always within a certain scoring zone around the D.
Yeah.
But they're still putting up massive scores.
I was thinking about the Galway game. They were just like unremarkable point after unremarkable point. I mean that in the best sense of the word. They were great points, but like they weren't, as you said, the Hollywood shots from distance. They were just like, another score.
But as far as I know, but this is their highest scoring summer. You know, in terms of average, even though it looks more like a safety first game.
Yeah. So have that, Richie.
That's me told.
Yeah, there you go. That's some Dublin talk for you right there.
Sorry, zoned out. What were we saying?
Champions League, is that what's next?
Yeah, 3 sides looking to book their place in Thursday's group stage draw tonight. Ajax in pole position to see off Dynamo Kiev, taking a 3-1 lead to the Ukrainian capital. It'll be the first time in 4 seasons that Ajax have reached the group stages. AEK Athens 2-1 up on Vidi going into their second leg in Greece, while Dynamo Zagreb and Young Boys are delicately poised at a goal apiece. Sean O'Brien, meanwhile, says he hopes to be back playing by the time Leinster kick off their Champions Cup pool campaign. The Ireland flanker hasn't played since shoulder surgery ended his season back in April. Leinster's European season opens with the visit of Wasps to the RDS on October 12th. They're away to Cardiff from the Pro 14 this coming Friday. O'Brien hopes to have returned to the field by mid-October and says he stayed positive throughout his injury woes.
For me, it was just making progress every single day. and that's the way I went about it in rehab. So it was just about getting bigger and stronger and fixing everything that was a little bit creaky. So that's why pre-season's been so good, and the last 4 months has been really good for my body. So I've been pretty positive, to be honest with you, over the last while, and feeling in a really good place right now.
It would be just dandy if he was raring to go next September.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it make sense? Brian Dublin makes, I think, a pretty interesting point. Wouldn't it make sense when you think about it for an English club if their best player, one of their best players, did declare for Ireland? We don't qualify for that many tournaments. You're not losing them for the summer every 2 years. It's a fair enough point. You might get a fresher player.
Possibly.
But I guess they've done the maths on the thing, and it just must help to have an English player in your ranks when you're trying to sell to the local community.
Even if he doesn't get capped, if he is just an English player, it's going to be worth a few more quid.
Yeah, a few people saying, lads, he's going to be a Michael Keane or a Jack Grealish with 2 caps, no more, is the sentiment out there.
Well, I'm not sure about that, because there's so many players now that are coming to international football really around their mid-20s. And, they often have to come up the hard way, or they mature a bit later. Like, I wouldn't rule out Grealish having a decent career. Like, Tottenham were very keen on him.
Yeah.
Very keen on him. So.
They should have an extra 5 million just to get him.
Yeah.
But even still, you look how quickly people can amass caps. Jamie Vardy retiring today, we're in inverted commas, 26 caps.
Yeah,
Who saw you'd had that many by this stage, He came to a
But like, it's actually just on the Tottenham thing. They're the way they operate in the transfer market. I know they've been rightly criticised for not buying the summer, but they're starting the outfield players last night cost less in total than Paul Pogba. Like Lucas Moura for 25 million was an absolute snip.
Yeah,
absolute snip. Like, they do really good business.
Yeah. No, they looked really good. I mean, it was hard not to look at Pochettino there in his old black suit, the energy and his freshness, and you think, well, he should really be the manager at Manchester United, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
As Spurs fans become
Real
irate and
Madrid.
text in. Or Real Madrid, yeah. Well, they tried to get him twice this summer, didn't they?
Yeah.
Before ruining Spain's World Cup. So John Maughan, he's back.
Yeah.
He never went away, Richie.
Despite a 10-year absence, the former Mayo manager set to return to the inter-county scene. He's to be ratified as the new manager of Offaly's footballers. He'd also been linked with the Westmeath job, but it appears Niall Carew is now set to land the Lake County job. Maughan's last inter-county gig was with Roscommon back in 2008.
Some career. 1992 in Clare is a long while ago now.
Yeah, absolutely. And
will he still wear shorts on the sideline? That's one of the burning questions for 2019.
Well, who had the best tan, him or Liam McHale? There's some
it's definitely Maughan.
Can't separate that level of greatness.
Absolutely Maughan. Yeah, Maughan, particularly around 96 direction. That was just...
But McHale was ahead of his time. A few years ago in the press box in Croke Park. He was in the press box, which is always Arctic.
He's down Charpusters on Wednesday and Thursday.
But he wasn't wearing socks long before the Jackie Turrells and all these people. He wasn't wearing socks. So he was the first hipster.
He's an amazing man, really. He did a roadshow for us a couple of years ago, and still looks fantastic. Great shape. And still has the tan and everything. And we were chatting afterwards around a few drinks or whatever, and I said, so did you come up from Ballina this morning or whatever? And he lives right by the Atlantic in Enniscrone. He's like, no, I came up this morning, was swimming with the dog in the sea, 7 a.m. this morning. We always do it.
Yeah, well, there's great... did you see the documentary on Irish basketball is based in Kieran Shannon's book, Gary Keane's documentary, I think. Is it called He Got Game or We Got... I can't remember what it's called, but there's great stuff on Ballina and the McHales and that. Like, it's really fascinating story.
I spent a lot of time in Ballina growing up, grandparents there, and McHale was a basketball superstar. Like, I have a picture of him and me at a basketball thing he was doing when I was, 4 or 5, and he was putting on a basketball clinic. Like, it was an amazing time. It was just mad. It was so popular. It was brilliant. Anyway. Are we out of time? Nearly. Do you want to bring us the last story or two?
Yeah, last story or two. Ireland's women grouped with 2 of the world's top 5 at next year's European Championships in Antwerp. The World Cup silver medalists will open their campaign against England on August 18th of next year before facing Belarus the next day. Graham Shaw's side will round off their Group A campaign against the current world number 5, that's Germany. Ireland's men's side also drawn to face the Germans. Alexander Cox's team will also face Scotland and the Netherlands. While women's second seed Caroline Wozniacki was a comfortable 6-3, 6-2 winner over Sam Stosur in the US Open first round this evening. 5th seed Petra Kvitova also safely through to round 2 after beating Janina Wickmeyer 6-1, 6-4. 2017 French Open winner Jelena Ostapenko needed 3 sets to see off the German Andrea Petkovic. Naomi Osaka and Johanna Larsson both victorious today. Angelique Kerber, she is up against Margarita Gasparyan of Russia out on court at the moment, and it's 5 each going with serve in the first set of that one. Later, 5-time men's champion Roger Federer opens his 2018 account against Yoshihito Nishioka, while Novak Djokovic is out on court at the moment. He's taking on Martin Fucsovics of Hungary, and Djokovic leads by 5 games to 2 in the first set of that match, Joe.
Should I know most of these people?
Just because you choose not to pay attention to tennis, Joe.
I do pay attention, but honestly, it's like every Grand Slam, I seem to just see names I've never even remotely heard of before. Year in, year out, month in, month out.
But it's like just when he talks about golf.
Exactly. If you're a real tennis person, Joe.
Golf, the same players are there as they were 20 years ago.
If you weren't concentrating on Padraig Harrington.
Except the Irish Open leaderboard.
Yeah. Is this on Amazon now?
Yes. I was watching it on Amazon Prime out the phone in the office yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a changed world.
It's essentially the same feed that you would get if it was still on Eurosport or Sky. Like you've still got your Sam Smiths doing commentary on it and all that, but it's just happens to be on Amazon.
Right, okay. So again, last quick reminder, 30th of August, Thursday, let's just call it Thursday. Kieran McGeeney, James Horan, Jim McGuinness, Aidan O'Shea, Cora Staunton. It's great to have Cora there, lots to talk to her about as well. Peter Canavan, Keith Barr. It's very much an exclusive off-air event. We may play some of it out on Friday, but ostensibly it's off-air. So we're giving you the chance to win a pair of VIP tickets. You'll get the best seats in the house, meet and greet with guests, and get this, an off-the-ball goodie bag. So to be in a chance of winning, just identify our mystery voice. He is delighted to be part of Off the Ball stable of football pundits for this season.
It's a huge job. It's the best job in the world.
Text your name and answer 53106 for 30 cents. We'll announce the winner later on the show. If you don't win later on the show, you can still get the last of the tickets. They're at offtheball.com/events. So offtheball.com/events if you don't win. We'll take a short break. After 8 o'clock, we're talking to Jack O'Shea and Sean Walsh about the last time we had a 4-in-a-row side. Then it's really Martin O'Neill all the way till 10 o'clock with a kind of feature sit-down interview we did on Friday. And up next, Padraig Harrington.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000